The final stages of World War II. Nazi Germany is all but defeated, and there's a race to take Berlin.
The Western Allies cross the Rhine, but suffer heavy casualties. Still some distance from Berlin, US President Eisenhower is reluctant to push on, but British Prime Minister Churchill is determined. The Red Army advance on Berlin from the east.
Eisenhower orders the Western Allies to halt, giving Berlin and Eastern Germany to the Soviet Union. In doing so, he honours the Yalta Agreement, and Berlin is divided into Russian and Western control.
At the Allied peace conferences in Yalta and Potsdam, Germany's territories are divided up. The Soviets don't want to relinquish territorial gains made in the war, and for good reason. Russia, having been subjected to repeated invasions, wants a buffer of friendly nations along their western border. Russia's leader, Stalin, establishes a sphere of influence by installing communist-aligned governments across Eastern Europe.
The US, suspicious of Russia since the Bolshevik Revolution of 1917, sees this as aggressive communist expansion and part of a plan for world revolution.
Former British PM Winston Churchill declares that an Iron Curtain has fallen across post-war Europe, dividing the free and democratic nations of Western Europe from the Eastern nations under the tyranny of the Soviet Union. These contradictory worldviews fueled the tensions that led to the Cold War. March 1947. The Truman Doctrine, named after a speech by US President Harry S. Truman, describes a policy of containment designed to stop Soviet expansion. Truman makes the American position clear. He asks Congress for $400 million in economic and military assistance for post-war Turkey and Greece to reduce the communist threat. They agree. June 5, 1947. Assistance for the whole of war-ravaged Europe is proposed in the Marshall Plan. From 1948 to 1951, 16 nations will receive more than $13 billion in aid from the US.
The aid is used to build housing, roads, transport, schools and hospitals, and to improve agricultural and industrial production. Because the aid is only available to the Soviets and Eastern Bloc countries through the free market economy, they refuse the offer. Russia repatriates the resources needed to rebuild Russia from East Germany, determined to keep Germany weak.
Stalin doesn't want the impoverished East Germans to grow envious of West Germans' prosperity under the Marshall Plan. June 1948. Stalin blockades West Berlin, which is surrounded by the newly formed GDR. Rail, road and canal access is cut. No food or fuel can enter.
In a show of might, the US airlifts in supplies. The Russians, fearing the US's atomic supremacy, won't shoot down the planes. The blockade lasts for 11 long months. 2.25 million tons of supplies are airlifted into the 2.5 million inhabitants.
April 1949. The Western powers establish NATO to collectively defend themselves against Soviet expansion. May 12, 1949. Stalin gives up on the blockade. On March 5, 1953, he dies. May 9, 1955, West Germany becomes a NATO member and is allowed to remilitarize. In response, the Soviets established the Warsaw Pact, a mutual defence organisation for the Eastern Bloc against the West.